So why didn't you ever get a job?
Yeah, back to my dad and my mom really. So I graduated college. I was an education major, and I decided at that point I wanted to make some money first. So where you make money, you go into sales. So this was 1995, and I went to New York City. I was interviewing all the time, every week, and I went on tons of interviews. And every job that wanted to offer me a position, they needed a year experience was their prerequisite. Like, Joe, we love you. We think you'd be great, but you have to have a year. Like, our company won't hire without a year
Mm,
proven
mm,
sales. So I was living at home, right out of college. I was living at home for free, whatever. And my mom came to me and said, your dad really wants you to work for him, right? And for me, I was like very hesitant because my dad sold printing, right? And he was about a $250,000 company at that time. At one point, I think he was about a $500,000 company. So he did well for himself, and he had no overhead, nothing. And I wasn't getting a job. So I was like, you know what, Dad? Why don't I go sell for you for a year? I'll get my year experience. His
mm,
business was actually going downhill at the time because Kinko's came out, computers came out. Like, you didn't need a small printer. You go to Kinko's and get
no,
100 copies of something done, right?
no,
So I was like, hey, we'll help each other, right? You scratch my back. So I'll go out, I'll get a year experience under my belt working for his company, and I'll get him some new clients and then move on, right? And at the end of the year, I was like, well, wait a second. Why am I going to go work for Mark now? And Mark's going to give me 10% of whatever I sell when I could just keep 100% of whatever I sell. Why?
mm,
I like to do the sales. So I said to my dad, look, why don't we just grow this business, right? And work for ourselves. Like, why am I going to go off and get a job? So I had to convince my dad to take out a loan. Again, my dad had no overhead. He didn't pay rent. He was in a shop with his buddy, and he had no overhead. Right now, I'm like, hey, let's take out a $50,000 loan. Let's go rent a building. Let's buy a bunch of equipment we don't know how to use, right? Because I'm like, we have to sell bigger. He still had
yeah,
those small printing presses. Like, we have to sell bigger project brochures and stuff like
mm,
that. So I finally convinced him to do it, and he was very hesitant about it. And we did. So we took out a $50,000 loan, and the company grew from $250,000 to about $3 million in the course of about 3 years or so. And it's just really selling. The rest of it I learned along the way. I should
mm,
have learned other stuff about business, but just getting out and hitting the pavement and like, all right, this is my business now. I got to go out and same thing like I was saying before. I got to go out and work my ass off. 16 hours a day we were working when we started to get it going, right? And then so from there I wound up running that company for 20 years. So it's just I
wow,
never had to get a job. So my dad retired after about 5 years because we got rid of all the printing equipment after 5 years. Like, hey, there's this thing called graphic design, and websites are
mm,
coming out.
mm,
A lot more money in that, and not all the costs involved. So my dad retired, and he kept taking a salary because he put up he was the investor, and it was great. So I was like, all right, this is good. So I just and then from there, it turned into a marketing agency, and I was like, well, same type of thing. I'm like, why am I doing all this work for Mark's company and marketing his company, letting his company grow, when I could start my own companies and use my marketing team to market those companies? So that's when the other companies started coming about. So
did you sell the printing business?
I didn't really sell the printing business. At one point, I bought my partners out who wanted to stay in printing, and I wanted to go to marketing. So we kind of got rid of the printing side of things and focused on the marketing. Eventually, yeah, I sold the marketing agency about 2016. I think I sold, and I sold the magazine at the same time. So I started the magazine in 2009, and I sold both companies around 2016 to pursue other companies because I was like, all right, 20 years of doing this has been great.
Mm,
Let me get out. I had other ideas for companies I wanted to start, so I had to get rid of those companies to do the
yeah,
other ones.
and
Right, you
start
can't
others.
run two companies and start two more right at the same time, so it's a little tough.